tell you next, what I tell you over the next 15 minutes could change your entire perception of yourself and of your reality. Warning, what I tell you now and what we talk about in the next 15 minutes can change your entire reality and expose you to an entire brilliant world that was previously unknown to you because you're crazy powerful. And you are so powerful that you told yourself that you weren't and you believed it. And other people told you that you weren't and you believed it. Nothing I say here today is an untruth. Nothing I say is something esoteric and outside of the realm of reality. Everything I say here today is entirely true. You can verify it yourself. You can Google. We're going to talk about scientific truths, and we're going to talk about obvious truths as well. Just observational, experiential truths. And you can watch it once, you can watch it a second time, and everything will be accurate and honest. And you will come away knowing yourself and knowing the world on a much deeper, fuller, more powerful and empowering level. Yesterday, we talked about some of your powers. We talked about the five senses and how the five senses is just one of the many stories we were taught as children and as young people. Stories that try to summarize our condition, our human biology, and give us a sense of what's going on. Five senses. And we know it's not true. Science has mapped at least 22 plus other senses. And if we keep going, we keep looking at these senses, you realize that those are still only the beginning points. You can break those down further, and that each of those senses are, there's deeper analysis and more language we can apply to talk about how powerful you are. We talked about how your sight is a powerful phenomena, your ability to see and discern colors, to discern light and shadows, and to tell distance through looking, and how powerful and majestic and brilliant it is that so many systems are at play that help you do this, that help you navigate the world and see and understand the external world so that you don't have to. It happens on its own. The cones and the rods in your eye do the work on their own without your effort. You simply turn your neck, you look a certain way, and these systems go to work, right? If this was a video game or a movie, there'd be some like noise. It'd be like, ding, ding, and you would get all this information. No, so it does it so quietly. It's so much quieter than any of the AI imaginations that we have. This thing just works, and it's so basic to you that it becomes mundane. You're so powerful that the powers that you possess become mundane and they become normal. And you have a story for it, and it's simple, and you move on and you take it for granted. We talked about that yesterday. We talked about how the five senses are a limitation in a narrow, simplistic, inadequate story. And we talked about proprioception, which is considered the sixth sense, which has to do with your sort of bodily awareness, your awareness of your limbs, your ability to understand your positioning in reality. We talked about interoception, I believe is the other one, that has to do with sensors in your body. Your body has regulating sensors that work without your effort, completely without your effort. They can understand your body temperature, your need for more heat, body warmth. You might need more cool. It understands hunger. It transfers all of these information through your entire body. Every cell in your body knows that it's hungry or that it's thirsty, and it transfers it certainly to your brain, and your brain gets to process it, and then you get to do what you want with that information. You go and feed yourself or drink or respond to the need. But that it happens without your effort. It just happens. It just happens. You don't even have to think about it. It just happens, and you take it for granted. You're over here. I'm 43 years old. You spent your whole life ignoring this. You don't even consider it as part of your reality. It's so easy for you. It's so easy. I was thinking today actually about walking downstairs. You know, walking downstairs. There's a reason we don't let little children, like little babies, 1 year olds, they first start to walk. We say don't walk downstairs. We certainly put up. They have gates that you can put up to prevent kids because they're not able to do it yet. They don't have. You don't realize you take it for granted when you walk downstairs. The core that's being your core is being activated, your glutes and your hamstring, your quad, the tendons on your knees as you step down and you transfer weight from one leg to the other. You think it's simple because you've done it so much. That's another brilliant thing about you and your body and your existence is that as you do things, you get better at them immediately. As soon as you do something, you immediately get better at it. The second time will be better than the first, the third time, and then there'll be some diminishing returns. But as you continue to do something with intention, as you focus and, you know, try things with intention and without, you will get better at it. That is something that is brilliant. There's something about the human condition where even at the highest level, people believe that, what was it, the 9 minute mile? People believe that it would be impossible to uh, run a 9 minute mile or run a marathon where the average was 9 minutes. There was a cap on everybody's understanding about what the human body can do. It's impossible. It can never be done until it was done several years ago, if not several decades ago. And now it's kind of an accepted thing at the highest levels. Every few years, we are stunned by what the human body was capable of. That's for the long distance running. Obviously, the sprinters, it's another deal. Usain Bolt revolutionized our understanding of the human body and its capabilities in sprinting. And he broke the mold because even his body type, the assumption was that sprinters had this a bit more squat and short, I meant to say, in terms of the height. And, you know, sprinters have to be able to fucking propel themselves. And he's like, oh, he comes up and shows the world that he can do it with his body type and he can break the records. And that's just something that people do. I remember when I was, I played football in high school and college, as I've said. And after my second job out of college was as a personal trainer. I was a personal trainer at Gold's Gym for like 4 years. And I had to realize like some of these people, I'm getting clients and I'm trying to make them do step ups and, have them step up on a bench, you know what I mean? Put 2 feet up on a bench and then come down and then maybe do that with weights in each hand or something like that. You got to be careful if you're a personal trainer. If you're a personal trainer, people know this. Y'all know you got to assess that person first. And you think it's something simple, a simple body motion, a simple movement like stepping up stairs or stepping up on a bench. That is for you simple. That would be simple for an audience of athletes, whatever. If your client base is older or they are deconditioned or people who've never really challenged their body so much, they won't be able to do it. You'll have to acknowledge that and ease them into it, but know that, and I've seen it firsthand. You start off with someone, they've got no balance. This whole low balance, deconditioned. They haven't tested themselves, but in time, in a week's time, just a few points of effort, their mind and their body syncs. They get a sense of understanding. They know what to expect, and now they can do these motions, and then you can actually progress them into the next thing. And that's because that is just a feature of how our bodies and our minds work. It's a brilliant thing. It's brilliant even in the sense that, somehow magically, like you get to choose. Like if I want to improve my balance and my core and I can do it. I can do step ups. I can walk on a narrow sort of beam or something. I can challenge my balance to gain it. And someone else who doesn't put that effort in, someone else who doesn't want to gain the balance, let's say, like they don't have it. You are playing in a video game where you get to progress in whatever direction you want by putting your attention towards it. What we're pointing to is a truth, and it's it encompasses a whole bunch of stuff. We're talking about physiology and the body. We're talking about the mind body connection. We're talking about psychology. I mean, if we start to talk about very difficult things, we're talking about the mind being able to imagine that it's possible to do something and then to set itself on that course and then to achieve it. And that's true not just in the physical world and with athletes and shit like this. That's true with everything. That's true with everything. There's a magical component about what who you are and what you can be, that you can aspire to something and then see it through. And as we said yesterday, the things that you believe are true. The things that you tell yourself are true. They are true for you. The Wright brothers, I forget what year the Wright brothers finally, achieved their successful flight. But it is famously, just 4 or 5 years prior to that, there were professors in aerodynamics, professors at the elite universities in this country in aerodynamics, who insisted that human flight would not be possible for another 100 years. They had published reports, and based on their best understanding, human flight is not going to be possible for another 100 years. You and I can't even fathom that because we jump on commercial easy flights. It's ba 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 bang, bang, what a privilege. We don't even consider it. But this was the condition back then. The best, most educated people said, "Nah, human flight's too difficult, 100 years." And the Wright brothers, without funding, without sponsorship, they simply believed and they set about it. They tested, they risked, they tried stuff. And by accident, by will, by trial and error, they set in motion a whole impossibility. What would have been an impossibility before would have been akin to magic. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get this? And what's funny is I was watching one of my videos. Was it the yesterday video or 2 days ago? And I'm talking, as I said, about the top of this video. There's nothing in this video that is outside of the South, outside of truth. There's nothing. We're not making anything up here, but I use the word magic to talk about these systems that we take for granted, like our respiratory system. When we sit and really understand how our respiratory system intakes oxygen, expels carbon dioxide, the process of the blood and how they oxygenate oxygen. You know what I'm saying? Oxygen goes into our bloodstream and it's pumped through the lungs, and we don't think about it. We don't even try. It just works. It keeps us alive. What a privilege. We don't have to think. We don't have to actively breathe. It just works. And I called it magic. And I remember thinking, there was a version of me several years ago when I called myself more of a sort of an atheist or a logical atheist. I was attached to the idea of a logic and atheist. I wouldn't like the word magic, right? Like, if I watched that video 15 years ago, I would have followed along. It would have been a true video. There's nothing to critique in that. It's just a true set of statements about our human biology. And then the word magic would be a turnoff because it doesn't jibe. It seems like a filler for something. I want to say, yeah. That's what I was noticing. There's like this filler. Like, I don't want to do magic, but like, as I think about it, and I want you to consider this, right? There is always an element that is outside of our understanding. What we have, this thing called logic, is just stories. We have the ability to apply language to things. We have the ability to look at a certain system in a certain context. We have the ability to talk about things in such a way and tell a story that we say, oh, we understand it. That's the logical thing. And then you remove the parts that don't make sense at all, that you don't fully understand, and you just remove them and you don't talk about it at all. But they're there. And so when we talk about the respiratory system, I can talk about it entirely in a way that biologists will understand and agree. And we can talk about the lungs, and we can talk about the throat and the bronchial, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. We can go through it, right? And then there's this majestic truth that escapes these, like this description that you talk about. Again, we are interacting every second, and we are intaking this thing called air, which we know is not just empty space. It is a thing. We know that we're engaged in some sort of exchange with the plants and the tree and animal, the plants around us, and this is fundamental to life, and it's fundamental to consciousness, and it works. So what else is like that? Like, even like, take an apple tree. I was reading up on apple trees, bro. Like, take an apple seed, take a seed, plant a seed, this little seed, which is, in terms of mass and size, it is the size of like half of my fingernail. Take a seed, plant it in the ground somewhere, water it, leave it over time. In order to get an apple seed to turn to an apple tree, it's a 2 to 3 year process to produce fruit. A tree that would be big enough, that's been germinated, and you know, it's got the roots, and it develops, and then it creates apples. It's going to take about 2 to 3 years to do that. And I could tell a story. And if you go online, you Google, or you ask the AI motherfuckers to do it, they will give you a story. They will give you a story about the ground, and about water, and about the sun, and about 2 years, blah, blah, blah. But again, that story is fine. And that story is even true. But again, we're talking about, where did that mass come from? There's all of that, the weight, the heavy tree, the bark, and this whole massive, it has the potential of this entire heavy, large, fruitful, abundant leaves and bark and root and stems that came from this little seed, half the size of my thumbnail. The story is cool. The story helps us understand. The story could be true, but it's not the full thing. It's that mass is, you could tell it a different way. It's like, it's the air. It fucking, we actually planted some sunflowers there. So this is not a tree. The sunflower, we planted it about 3 weeks ago, and already we're starting to see, first off, it's like 3 times the size it was. When we didn't plant seeds. We planted sunflowers that were already in pots. We put them in the ground in our yard here, and they are 3 times the size they were when we planted them. And they are starting to bud, the little yellow leaves that are typical of sunflowers. The air and the sun and the water that it receives sort of produces this thing from thin air. It meshes together, and it sprouts. It extends its roots underneath the ground in a way that we can't see, and then above the ground it does the same, and it produces these leaves that are brilliantly, like, beautiful, and they also, like, are resilient. We've had some storms recently, and they'll sway, and they kind of, it does its thing, and it is. And and if you don't want to use the word magic, you don't have to. You can tell the story without using that word. But the best people who understand their fields, they leave room for the unknown. They don't pretend to know what they don't know. And I'm convinced that the best approach to talking about the human condition has a similar quality. We can talk about what we know and try our best to map what we know as best we can, and also take note that we don't know much, and also leave room for God or magic or the unknown, this thing we call consciousness. The problem with calling it God, obviously, is that people do misuse the word, and people do use the word, and it it can, people start to, that's why we talk about God in depth on this podcast. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but it escapes language. We give language to things after the fact. We give language to phenomena after the fact. And I'll just end with this. The language that we have, the word human, and the way that we describe ourselves, the way that we think of ourselves as human, what human means too often is, it can mean different things, but in a very secular scientific context, it can be something like, it can be something dull. It can be something like, an evolved ape, collection of cells and an evolved ape on a floating rock called Earth. And, and people can hold that story. And I think from that story, a bunch of beliefs and actions come. But that's not the full story. That's a story. That's a story. We are breaking down stories. That's a big part of this whole. We are breaking down stories. We are examining stories. We are trying to tell fuller. We are telling fuller stories. And so the fuller story of the human condition, is magical, and it escapes our stories. And it's powerful because the magical way that that your body does all the things that it does is the same as your neighbor. It's the same as your sister and brother. It's the same as the people in Japan and in Africa and Europe. That this deep analysis and description of what the human condition is, it draws us closer to each other. It shows, when you really gather it, it becomes silly the separations become absurd. You know, when I have proprioception and you also do the same thing, and you have intuition and I have intuition, and I see you and I see that you have trauma and I have trauma, and that we have worked through that, and our identities, we can understand, like, we have all of these things going on, and that, that's what we share. And, the separations become absurd, and they can't hold. So I'm excited to continually remind us, and be in communion about how powerful and brilliant and remarkable we are, and this existence is. You know what I'm saying? That's the message. That's the message. I'll be on again tomorrow. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Check me out on billybutton.com. And I see the God in you. Be well. Take it easy.